Hi, my name's Jenelle Riley. I'm an editor at Variety, and welcome to the SAG-AFTRA Conversation at Home with CCH Pounder. Today's guest is, of course, a four-time Emmy Award nominee. She's appeared in all your favorite things, from ER to Avatar, Face Off, The Shield, and you can see her now as Dr. Loretta Wade on the CBS drama, NCIS New Orleans. And like a good citizen, she's wearing a mask. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely, and I wanted to do that so that they know that here in where I am is Louisiana, we really are trying our very best to get this virus under control.
It's appreciated, and that's a nice mask too. I'm just wearing like the boring thicker ones. Yeah.
Oh yes, I have a feeling that it's going to be part of the fashion for the next few years. For some reason, I just feel that it's not quite going to go away as we hope, and the vaccines are not going to be as fluid. So I just thought, you know what, let's just start incorporating it into our lives and know that we've got to wear it. So done.
I've seen people selling shirts and even swimsuits that come with a matching mask.
Yeah,
so we're in this for the long haul.
We're in it for the long haul.
And since we're already here, I should remind people watching at home for information on SAG-AFTRA Foundation's COVID-19 Relief Fund, which has been helping so many people out. Please check the comments for more information. But as this is primarily an audience of actors, I actually like to start by asking, how did you get your SAG card?
Oh my gosh. SAG card was maybe the weirdest of things. Bob Fosse in a Bloom closet, in a hospital, in New York, all that jazz. And I was there to read for the Nurse from the Caribbean. And I remember Fewer and Ritzer with the agents who called. My agent said, we need a woman from the West Indies. And they said, well, Cece was from Guyana, maybe she can help you. And I went and I did kind of like Barbados, Jamaica, Guyana, Trinidad. And then Bob Fosse went, that's her. That's it. And I said, oh, well, I'm so glad you found her. And off I went. He said, where are you going? Where are you going? And I said, well, what else do you want? And he said, I want you to do it. That's how clueless I was. I was in the theater and I was told that I was just going to show him these different accents. And I said, Mr. Fosse, the character is 50 years old. I was thinking it was 26 or something like that. And he said, yeah, but you can do it. We can just change all of that. And I said, I've never been in a film before. And he said, I'll walk you through it. And it was the gentlest entrance into the film business ever. And he said, at the end of this, you're going to get your card. And I said, I'll probably never use it. He got me my card. And I did go off for another 7 years back into the theater quite happily. I think it was like about 6 years. Never gave it a thought until I gave it a thought. And then I remembered that I had been paying for this little card for years.
You've gotten good use out of it over the years,
I've gotten really good use out of it. But it also tells you the fact that I never thought it was possible at that time. I'm doing just fine in the theater. I have work. I'm doing okay. So there's no need. But the day came when Milwaukee weather, I was doing regional theater, Milwaukee weather just about tried to do me in. And I literally called a friend in California and said, I'm freezing. I don't know what to do. We're heading out to Japan. And I have to do Flores Perlas Muertas, these 3 lines in a streetcar named Desire. And she said, that's all you have to do is the 3 lines. And I said, well, I had done Mother Courage, so it's kind of rotating theater. And she said, contracts are meant to be broken. Get out of there before you die there.
Great advice, honestly.
Yeah.
I can't believe All That Jazz was your first time on a movie set. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
It was extraordinary and it was sort of extraordinary in hindsight because I was so young and clueless about the film industry because it just never seemed to come to us. When you look on the television or in films, there were very few of us. So I just didn't think that was really a possibility. Yeah.
And yet you've been a part of so many classic shows. I know you had an arc on Hill Street Blues, did ER. I'm curious, how did NCIS New Orleans find its way to you? Were you looking to do a regular TV show at the time?
Yes, I was. NCIS New Orleans actually for me is a gift. And I am a widow now, but when I took it because my husband was like had the kind of diagnosis that made you kind of go, we can't work in cable and get you fixed. We need real money. We need to really go out there and find something. And I had never thought of myself as an actor who chose an opportunity over a role. And I've always felt I had these great roles like Claudette in The Shield and Mrs. Frederick in all that, in Warehouse 13. And they were things to explore and have a good time with. And I'd always lived very much on an even keel. And when this happened, I realized that we needed to do something major. And this came along. Timing was marvelous. It extended his life for quite a bit. Came out to New Orleans with me for a little bit. You know, I tried to get him by the sea down in Fort Walton of Florida, Destin area. And I have to say that I've never been more grateful, because post his life, I started to kind of incorporate it, like, what can I do with it? And I think the actor in me long kicked in when I first got it, as opposed to saying, well, whatever, I'll just do it. I'm doing it not for myself. But the actor says, well, what can I do with her? How can I make her mine? And that was one of the really good things that happened.
It's I know this is a strange word to use, but I find her to be a very fun character. She's the medical character, which fascinates me. And I feel like you get cast as authority figures, you know, cops and doctors a lot. What is that about?
I think I've got a very authoritative voice. At least that's what folks used to say, was that when I said something without shouting, it was quite unnerving. So I was like, come on! But I think the fact that I have a sort of a multiple accent living within my throat, that's sort of a strange casserole of sounds, that it makes people listen just because they're hearing something slightly different. And so that already makes them kind of go, what's that? Who are you? Where are you from? And for years, in fact, I would do theater. I would be so happy with the shows that I got. I would have standing ovations. People would be clapping, and I would be, great, great, great. And then as I was walking away, they'd go, where are you from? And I'd be, oh, I've been found out. You know, I always thought. So it took about 7 years. I remember the day it happened, when I had that wonderful ovation and people were cheering, and I walked away, and it was like, it's coming, it's coming. And it didn't come. And I went, I finally got America down. Finally got it.
It is a great voice. And you've done some fantastic voiceover work too. What do you like about, you know, voiceover work is hard, by the way. I don't think I had any idea how hard until recently. But do you like sort of, you know, people?
I love it.
Do you? Yeah.
I love it because it's a kind of this sort of silent job. You can roll up in your pajamas and you can really sort of create a character. What I hate is, it's not called dubbing. It's the other thing. So when you've already done the character, now you've got to go in and add a word or add a sentence or take something out. And
I'm blanking on what that's called, and it's,
you know,
a common term. Yeah.
Common term. Somebody will type in.
Show up and do your. I know there's a zillion actors watching this right now screaming at us because we can't.
I know. Hey. But when I do that, sometimes to pull the emotion as to where you were at that time, to pull it back into the room in a single line or a word, sometimes it's much harder than I ever imagined. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing I love about NCIS New Orleans is you have this great ensemble. You have people like Scott Bakula and Vanessa Ferlito. I mean, it must be so much fun working with, such a talented, tight ensemble.
Scott and I have worked back in the day in Quantum Leap. So to come, I know, to come into his show was sort of a very gentle landing, because there's always that moment of like heightened anxiety when you first get into the show. Will we all fit? Will it be an ensemble of people who've come to work, or will it be separated? Or a lot of times, particularly with men, the fan mail becomes interesting, and it's all about me, and then I don't want to look dirty, and I don't want to, behave badly. I want to be loved, and their ego gets in the way. Scott couldn't give a wacky hoo-hoo, and he's been a character man all this time, and it's been easy. It really has been easy. I have no idea of how, because he's an executive producer as well as the actor, so I have no idea how much of a burden he has to fill. But from an actor's point of view, once I'm in the playing arena, I don't see anything but the character that's presented. So that's really nice.
He's also a theater guy at heart. I've been able to see him on stage a couple times, and he's so fantastic. I wonder if theater people are sort of drawn together.
I think so. I think when, particularly, we have a lot of guest stars. A lot of the guest stars are from the theater as well. And I think we have a sense of the entire play, as opposed to, well, I'm in this scene and it's going to be like that, For us, I think ensemble work is something that makes the product go forward, as opposed to, well, somebody says to me, I didn't like it, but you were great. I hate that. That's so disappointing to me, because it means that we all didn't get you there. Yeah.
Absolutely. I want to talk specifically about the episode Bias that came out in March, which, it was, I guess, I don't want to say it was ahead of its time, because I know this is happening constantly.
Right.
Yeah, but obviously before all the protests began, it's an episode where a cop appears to shoot an unarmed black man. Did you know that this episode was coming? Was it something they gave you a heads up about, or did you find out when you read the script?
Found out when I read the script, and I went, are they really going to do this? They're going to cut this to shreds and clean it up and da-da-da-da. I mean, I thought Celicia Rags had just said, I'm just going to write it the way I feel it. Mm-hmm. And I was shocked that the pages did not change that much. Yeah, it was amazing.
Wow, that's really impressive. And you have some wonderful scenes with Keith David, who he plays the Navy captain, but he's also kind of your love interest.
Yes.
What was it like to shoot scenes with him, particularly the one where, it's so powerful, Loretta is listing names of black men who have been killed at the hands of police, a list that, got longer, even by the time the episode came out.
By the time the episode came out, which was horrific. First of all, just as the actor's story, it was marvelous to work with Keith, because I think once we saw what we were going to do, you realize that you were doing a service, as opposed to, oh my God, I've got something to gnash. It was a very delicate set, I have to say, the entire time, because you're working in a large community. You don't know who thinks what, who's Republican, who's Democrat. We never break ourselves up into these. It's like we come to work to do the job. And there were moments of such delicacy during that time. Even in, do you mind if we just pick that up and do that again? Or, you were at the scintillating part of of these feelings, and Dr. Wade herself has children, and I remember when the first time I said it could have been my son's, it was like a glacier had come through that place. It was amazing because I think everyone at that moment realized that they were all part of that whole thing of it could have been my child, my police officer child. It could have been my kid walking along the block child, kid running around in a party, with a cell phone that might have looked like a gun. All of the scenarios came to play for all of the people that were there. And I think we really managed. I think by the time we finished, we knew we had done something. And I know that there were moments of tension, and those actors swallowed. It's got to be done. It's amazing. There were some moments with Vanessa, where it was like, let's just be quiet. And there were also moments with Pride, Scott, who didn't quite want it to come out that way, but it had to come out the way it came out, and therefore just let it happen. Let's do this. Mm-hmm. And Talisha Rags, who was the writer with LeVar Burton, he was very beholden to her, and that's also pretty amazing, I thought, where I really need for this kind of action to happen, and he'd redo it. And it was walking a very fine line for them. For an actor, for myself, I felt quite free. It's like, once you're committed, let's go ahead and lay it out the way fiction imitates life, imitates art, imitates life can happen. So it was great.
I saw LeVar Burton was the director of this episode. I thought he did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
And I know on a series like this, you probably have a lot of different directors. What
Yes.
do you from a director when they show up to set? What do you hope for from one?
Confidence. I like confidence. And some directors come with you with a sort of photography background. They're sort of still men, and they know how to move you around, kind of like a chessboard. And then whatever you say or do comes afterwards, and it's like, well, my overall picture looks good. And they actually sometimes feels like, well, there's a story here besides your picture. There's that kind of director. There's a director who has some, not that he's been an actor before, but he's got a connection with acting, and so he lets you show him what you would like to do here, and then he creates, which is my favorite part. Then he creates the story around you and the light and however he wants the camera to move, and that's pretty awesome. I do like that kind of a director. Now, the directors that we use on NCIS, after the first 2 years, then you start to see them again and again. And there is that kind of homecoming feeling when they come back. And it's always exciting when, there's one that's, haven't been here in ages. How are you? And so we've got a very happy, confident group, and they're excited to be there, and that's really important. So, so far, so good.
That's great, especially 6 seasons in, so some people
Yes.
could start to get complacent, and I never feel that watching this show.
I don't think complacency has hit us yet. I also don't think an actor I've never heard an actor say, my character wouldn't say that. I've never heard that. I have heard, could I say it differently, or it feels uncomfortable, stuff like that. But the fact that one would never try, it's pretty rare. If anything, it probably comes from me. I'm probably the most who would go, I don't think I can say that, because I have a sense of protocol with the dead, and it's just sort of technicalities that I learned just from my visits with other coroners. So
I'm curious about that because, like I said, this character fascinates me. Did you do anything special to prepare to play her?
well, I didn't think that I did, but it was. I went to the chief coroner in Los Angeles. I saw about 26 autopsies, and just the whole atmosphere of it, the lightness of the characters working, waiting for the bodies to come in, like when the body's coming in, it's going to get washed down there and it's going to go over there. You know, just the kind of how they lounged over there. The coroner himself, whose name I thought I would never forget, such an amazing man, and here I am. But taking me through, and I remember saying, my friend said I should maybe have some Vicks so that I'd smell. He said, no. He said, you won't ever forget the smell. You won't ever forget it. So just go. And I have to say that Los Angeles, which was like a giant Costco warehouse of dead bodies, it seemed like, with many, many autopsies going on at the same time, it was not the bodies that that stuck in my mind. That I didn't have a sense of horror, but I do remember a detective having to stay and sit with the autopsy or stand with the autopsy and never looking and just wishing it were over. It was the most powerful thing to see a man who had taken a life, and you have to see it to the very end. And I wonder what he could have been thinking. He could not look. It was amazing. So there was stuff like that. Just things that you want to remember, you know, if you have the opportunity, is to remember how precious life is. And once they're on your table, it's about solving a mystery to make family and others have the mystery removed so that they know why their loved one's gone. And so once you get that in your head, then that protocol of language, I do like to hang in there and stay with. But you know, once you get to the true tone with the music going, hey!
I'm curious because the show does deal, you know, with some serious issues, and especially something like the biased episode. Are you someone who can leave your work at the door, or do you find sometimes you take it home with you, or are some days tougher than others?
No, I can leave my work at the door now. But this is, you know, 48 years into this particular profession. I can not only leave it at the door, but I can arrive into the scene very quickly. And I think that was the training from the Shield, which was really harsh scenes. And so I think it's prepared me for all of the things to come. And I think just age, and I'm a veteran actor at this point, so, you know. I'd like to think that at this point I've arrived at being a storyteller.
Yeah. Do you have any tips? Like, are there songs you listen to, or are there things you think about, you know, to get you into the right mindset? Or does it come so naturally to you at this point?
I read the words. And I think this is an old thing from the theater, is that the actor is there to interpret what the playwright wrote. And it is not about how to make myself look particularly amazing or fantastic or funny. And it's allowed me to be an under-the-radar actor who moves through her work from one thing to the other, creating the story. But I think people remember the story more than they remember me. And I think that's kind of what I wanted.
your guys' show has already been picked up for 2 more seasons, which must have been a nice feeling.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know when you're going back to work, if you know what the scripts are going to be like. Do you have a dream scenario for Loretta?
Well, she kind of happened very briefly with Keith David because I wanted very much not to be an autonomous person. And I talked about it, I think by the second season. I said, I just don't want that you go to the coroner's place, to the morgue, and you see Loretta. And every now and again, she comes into the bar at the end with a cheer and, maybe a dance and a swing. So I said, we're in New Orleans. I want sass. I want the fact that I see couples here, my God, they're like 80s and 70s, and they're roaming hand in hand. They're out having dinner. I said, it's really a kind of a Southern charming thing that I really appreciate seeing. And they started to add these little elements of her life. So first I said, I want a man in my life. They gave me 2 sons. I was like, okay. But it was great. It was great that she had compassion for others. And I really did like that. And then LeVar Burton, ironically, was my first little fling you remember, in season 5. And he called me up and he said, how dare you? How dare you take another man? And I was like, I know, we've left you behind. But then again, he got to direct it. So that's kind of wonderful. And Keith David came in. I think it's important, not that you see these people all the time, but the fact is that they say, oh yeah, well, what else does she do? And they have a story to tell. And say, oh no, she's not just at the morgue. Loretta's defended people, and she's gone to the pubs, and she's been out to dinner with so-and-so. I wanted that kind of 360 degrees of a woman, and of a mature age who could know her job, have fun, be compassionate. It's sort of, and even flawed. There are times when, pride has had to rein her in. And I think these are really important things. And I think it kind of culminated in Bias, where you saw the professional, you saw the woman, you saw the activist, you saw the humanist. There were all these things kind of in this marvelous, horrific potboiler of a show that was not a precursor for what's really happening, because it was because these things had happened that show got written. And then it just happened to come out. You just never know how these things will fall. And it fell at, like, it seemed so prescient.
It's kind of eerie. You also see the mother. She has a really stunning scene where the victim's mother shows up at the crime scene, and it's just, she knows how to speak to her. Yes. And it's just gut-wrenching.
Yeah, it's, well, yeah. It makes me really proud that what we would call like the big networks, that they would expand their vision to take in the world of fiction and reality and create a story that is fiction but is so steeped in reality, where you can actually call the names of people that existed and honor them in that way by saying, we see you and we understand that there's strife out there, and not, do a Dr. Kildare moment where it's all going to be fine and dandy by the end. And we have arrived in the 2020s. It's a different life, or in the sense it's a life that is being seen. Whether you like it or not, it's being seen and it's being heard, and it continues to do so at this time. So amazing.
Well, you are always fantastic in everything. I always know that I'm in at least for one great performance when I see your name on something. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. I want to thank everyone for watching at home. You can catch up on all six seasons of NCIS New Orleans on the CBS apps. It's great quarantine viewing, by the way. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Great. It was lovely being with you. You take good care.
You too.
And put your mask on after we're done. just want to remind everyone that we are trying to get back to work.
Yes,
this
please.
might help. Yeah.